The grand bout is underway, and we're about to find out who wins the first match. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to episode 14 of Dr. Stone. So, yeah, like I said, we're about to find out who's going to win. We have our first big match, and it's against Magma right away. I'm kind of worried that we're not going to win this one, even with the help from Suika and her helmet. Because the problem I'm viewing here is that it feels like it's cheating. And I mentioned this last time. Like, giving him the helmet here, giving Kinro the helmet, like, it's helpful. But it feels like cheating. Like, if he had that going into the match, like starting it, that would be one thing, because he'd have it at the beginning. But giving it to him mid match, it kind of like changes the entire battle. It unbalances it and tilts it in Kinro's favor unfairly. Again, if he started the match with it, it would have started in a more, fair way. But doing this halfway through the match, it's not fair. So, honestly, I would be really surprised if he's not disqualified here. I'm surprised they're letting the match still go on, honestly. But I don't know what their rules in regards to that are. And we know how important rules are for them. So I guess we'll just have to see. But if they somehow do manage to take out Magma right away, it's kind of easy from there. And the interesting thing is, we found out last time that Senku, I don't know why my mind was blanking for a second there. We found out that Senku was actually entered in the grand bout as well as kind of a fall guy. He's like in there just to take the fall for the others so they can progress easier, which is a sound strategy, all things considered. And as long as it's not against the rules, then why not, right? But they make a big point in the last episode about Senku saying, it's not like I'm going to win or anything, which I've seen enough anime and just media in general to know when someone says that, it means they're going to win. And Senku winning and becoming the chief of this village would make sense with the narrative of the series. Because Senku's trying to create this kingdom of science, especially to combat currently Tsukasa's side of things. So by like integrating this village into the kingdom of science, it would allow for him to, have that huge win that he kind of needs. Like, he's had some notable victories here, some notable W's from gaining a lot of great allies, but that's not enough to face down Tsukasa. What he really needs is a big gain like this. And again, gaining this entire village for his kingdom would be a big gain. So it makes narrative sense for him to win here. But again, it's also because it specifically called that out. He specifically was like, it's not like I'm going to win or anything. So it's like, that's like a huge flag that he's going to win. It's like they're just rubbing it in our faces. It's a trope. It is actively a trope in media. And not every piece of media does actually, go the expected route with that. Some have, turned that trope on its head. But to be fair, most of the time that is setting up for what you think it is. And again, with how much narrative sense it would make for this series, I just can't really see this ending any other way. And I think I said this last time as well. I don't think Senku is interested in Ruri in that way, though. I don't think he wants to marry her. So I think that if he does win and becomes the chief, he's going to, probably not in a necessarily rude way, like, leave her, for a lack of a better word. I'm not going to say divorce because I don't know if that would entirely be accurate here, but he's not going to marry her. And instead, he's going to probably change quite a few of the rules of this village, because as chief, he'll be able to do that. And I think that might lead to the possibility of Riri and Chrome getting together. Because Chrome deserves to get together with her. It is absolutely deserved. And with the fact that Chrome and Senku have become pretty close friends, I think that Senku is going to, be a kind of wingman for him there. We also know from last episode that Riri was about to tell Senku something. She recognized his name, not and knew that he. She also not only recognized his first name, but she knew what his last name was, his family name. And so she knows exactly who he is, which, like I said before, more than likely means that someone from Senku's timeline, from his period in time before the Stone Age began, someone from that time who knew Senku was unpetrified, probably well in the past, and was instrumental in the founding of this village. Because it made a point of noting last time how, Riri as the priestess has all of this knowledge of the village's past and lore, basically. So it's likely that whoever knew Senku from that time knew helped found this village and helped pass down these stories of not just Senku but a lot of things from that time period. And as of where it is currently, the priestess is the one who is, the one carrying those stories into the future. So there's a lot of intrigue here. A lot of very interesting lore. And that's definitely going to come into play once this is over, one way or the other, no matter who actually ends up winning. Though I genuinely would be, insanely shocked if it weren't Senku at this point. The question is, how is it going to be Senku? The only thing I can see is if, one, Magma is defeated beforehand, and two, everybody else just randomly kind of decides to, reverse the plan and, purposefully lose to him. Instead of purposefully losing so that Kinro or Ginro would be able to take the victory, they're going to purposefully lose so that Senku does. And I wouldn't be opposed to the idea by any means. Like I said, narrative sense. It just depends on how it's going to be done and everything. I'm also wondering how many of these fights in this tournament we're going to skip, or if we're going to actually focus on all of them. Because if we focus on all of them, this can be considered a full tournament arc in a way, even if it's a small tournament. If we do skip past most of them and just show maybe one or two others besides the one we're currently in, outside of just rushing through the rest, then this would just be a small tournament within an arc and without the arc actually directly, showcasing it. But either way, I don't really have a strong thought on this because I don't think this is a tournament that needs to have every fight shown. But I wouldn't be opposed to seeing more of them, at least. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Um, for the time being, though, we're just going to get into this and hope for the best. So, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then it fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I watched the outro, and yeah, it's boring, honestly. The song is boring, the visuals are pretty much nothing. It's like most outros, most EDs for anime, and I know I might get flack for that, but I've said this before, so it's not like it's anything new. Most EDs for anime just aren't that great for me. Like, I just don't think they're that good, personally. There are exceptions. There are definite exceptions out there. There are some that are really good, but for the most part, I would say they're really not. But anyway, let's talk about this. I'm actually really surprised. I mentioned it at the end of the reaction there that we actually saw the result of this. I really thought it was going to cut off before we saw the result of this. Because it's already done that this like the other like an episode or two ago. No, it was last episode, yeah, because of the Kinro versus Magma and all. And I was kind of right that we were going to kind of like flash through these tournament fights, just like quickly go through them one after the other. It didn't really put a lot of focus on any of the other ones so far except this one at the end, Chrome versus Magma. It's focusing on the big matches that are like, you know, kind of the linchpins to everything going on, while everything else is just kind of like, okay, we're just gonna show this for like maybe a minute, minute and a half, and just skip right past everything else. Hell, the one fight between Chrome and Mantle, it's like it was like a minute, and it's like, oh, throw the fight, and he threw the fight because Kohaku was coming back, and therefore wouldn't be in time for her match, so that match just, you know, was skipped past because, you know, I'm not surprised, by the way, that they did that. I was kind of expecting that Kohaku would not be back in time, no matter what. I'm surprised she got that close, honestly. And I really, really like that her first response was just to hug Suika and be just super happy and relieved that she was okay. Like, that was her focus there. She didn't even care about the match at that point. She didn't care about the tournament. Like, she was just so worried about Suika, and that's, like, great. I mean, I really like Kohaku as a character already, but that really pushed her up for me. I would say probably my three favorites of this so far would be Tsukasa. Then Kohaku is probably my number 2 now. And after that is probably Chrome. Suika would probably be number 4. And if I wanted to go as far as number 5, then Senku can be there. But yeah. So there, I guess now you know my top 5 characters as of this moment. Tsukasa's still my favorite just because of the depth of his character. I really like villains who have that kind of depth. Kohaku has just really won me over. She's really funny. She's really kind. She's just a great character pretty much on all levels. I really like Chrome because he has a lot of good emotional depth to his character as well. He's become kind of like another best friend to Senku, and his interactions with him, as well as his intelligence and science mind, balance things out by not having Senku be the only person like that. So it's like, yeah, and then Suika, reasons, honestly. She's cute. She's just absolutely adorable and fun and likable. It's like, how can you not like Suika? And of course, Senku is just main character and a really good main character, so he gets upper billing for sure. But there's very few characters. In fact, I don't know if there's any characters that I can say I outright hate as a character. Because it's like, yeah, I obviously don't like Magma or Mantle, but they serve their purpose really well for the type of character they're supposed to be. Like, how can I truly say, like, I hate them as characters? Like, I hate them for their personalities and and the kind of people that they represent, but they're well written characters. They're supposed to be like that. They're supposed to be scummy. And they're really well handled in that regard. You can see a character who's terrible and scummy and just an absolute waste of space. But you can acknowledge that they're a well written, well designed, well handled character within the scope of the series and their role in it. Um, when I like really hate on a character as a character, it means that I think the character is poorly designed. And there are definitely characters like that in various series who I just think are just not well designed, not well written, not well handled. But I would not say Magma or Mantle are among those. I would say again that they fit their roles perfectly and they are well written in that regard. Anyway, so I'm also surprised that Chrome won this match. Like, really surprised. Because Chrome, not just because Chrome's not a fighter, because he didn't win through fighting. He won through, science, through trickery. I'm surprised, though, that he won because it felt like it was setting up for Magma to kind of be the final boss of the tournament. Which, I mean, I guess he still kind of represents, because at this point, is there anyone else who can really stop them from winning? The only thing at this point is who would be the one to win. I'm still thinking it has to be Senku, but it's like, why would they give... Like, the others would all have to basically lay down and give Senku the win, right? So why would they choose to do that for him? I guess we'll find out next episode. I mean, I understand that they all believe in Senku at this point. Like, everyone who we've become allies with here, like, they're all on board with Senku in the Kingdom of Science. That's unquestionable. That's the only thing I can think of, the reason that they would do this, because they believe he should be the leader of this village. They believe that he is, the perfect person to lead the village because of, well, the leadership qualities they've seen in him already. And I can't argue with that. But that means they'd also be okay with him marrying Ruri, which, again, I don't think he's interested in. I think he will be a wingman for Chrome in that regard. But are they all okay with that? Because they do also acknowledge that he is kind of skeezy at times. Like, the dude is a dirty player, absolutely. We even see that in this episode. And so it's like, are they okay with that? Because, I mean, they've seen his good sides too, so... Kohaku, I think, is the one who is the most, like, the one I'm most concerned about with that. Because Chrome absolutely would lay down for Senku. He would absolutely give up the fight for Senku. Kohaku obviously isn't in the tournament anymore. She was disqualified for not being there on time. But, would she allow them to go through with this? I'm just wondering what her view on this would be, because she's very protective of her sister, obviously. But I'm wondering if it was just kind of just Magma in his game that she was worried about. Like, would she be okay with Senku? It's hard to tell. Because again, sometimes she just sees him as like this schemer. And sometimes she does acknowledge like what he has to offer. So it's hard to say. Um yeah, I'm not sure. And then Ginro is still in, right? We still have Ginro as well. Like he won his match. He just, had the runs after. I think it's those three who are still in. Ginro, Chrome, and Senku. So, yeah, the only one I can actually see winning here is Senku. I don't see Ginro winning. As much as I like the dude, I don't see him winning. I could see Chrome winning, but I don't know. Not as much as I can see Senku winning. I don't see Chrome being the leader of the village. I see him marrying Ruri. I absolutely see that. But I don't see him leading the village. The only way I think they can make that work is if, like, they just basically make it, oh, Chrome is now the leader of the village, complete allyship with the Kingdom of Science, maybe even, like, combining the village and the kingdom that way. That's the only way I can see it happening. But I think, again, with the way they set up with Senku saying it's not like I'm going to win anyway, Senku has to win, right? Again, I don't think he's interested in Ruri. I think he'll probably abolish that entire idea and allow Ruri to marry whoever she wants, which would definitely be Chrome. But still, I guess we'll just have to see. Also, Gen is back. Let's talk about that. Gen just appears. And we find out he's been kind of watching from the shadows, I guess, the entire time. Um, we know we knew he would come back because he did need his cola. Like, that was the deal. So we knew he would be back. I just didn't expect it this soon. Just like with the new opening, which I'll talk about in a second here, I didn't expect Gen to come back until after the grand bout. But no, he's just here. So, hey. And he helped defeat Magma, too, by faking that entire curse thing. Because Magma, amongst all of these villagers, is probably one of the more superstitious ones. We have seen that. There is precedence for that. So it didn't come out of nowhere. And so, yeah, and it's like was said, unless his heart actually exploded, unless anything actually came of that curse, it's just taunting. And taunting's not against the rules. There's nothing against that. So, yeah. It's a dirty trick, but it's perfectly legal. So why not? And that's what allowed Chrome to burn Magma's clothes and what gave him the win. So, Gen is... I mean, we know Gen is an ally. That's not like a surprise. But we're really seeing it in action more and more here. So, that's pretty fun. Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. But the new opening, not so much. Listen, there's a lot of anime out there that have just this absolute banger of an opening when they first start, and it's usually to the point where not a lot of openings can, even come close to the quality. And I'm willing to give any opening a chance. Like, I'm not going to be one, like, who sees the first opening. It's like, oh, this is amazing. Nothing will ever compare to it. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to be like, let's see the next opening. It could surpass that. It's very possible. And I'm willing to give them all a chance. And maybe this one will grow on me a little more. But as of now, I'm not a fan of it. It's just kind of generic and boring. The visuals, especially compared to the first opening, are super boring. It's just basically like a slideshow of all the characters. It's just the camera passing by all the characters over and over. It's so bland. and just doesn't feel like it has depth and character to it. You know what I mean? The first opening felt like it was alive. Like it was not just showing the characters that you were going to see and meet, but expressing so much about them. You got so much depth to what their characters would be like in the opening. Not to mention, it was just the song was a lot more catchy and interesting. It really really like worked. Like even just the way it began with the Ohio Sakai Good Morning World. It's a very strong hook that just grabs you right off the bat. This opening just does not have that. It doesn't have a strong hook, and it just never really gets there. Again, based off of first impressions and everything. And it just feels boring. It's one of those openings that is super generic. And I don't know any other way to describe. I've heard a lot of people complain about others using that description, but there's no other way to really describe it. It's super generic. The song and the visuals don't do anything special. They don't go into any depth or detail about what the part of the series in this case is going to be like. When it's just basically, again, a generic slideshow of all the different characters, just showing them, what does that actually tell us? How does that hype us up for the episodes that we're about to watch? And the song doesn't have like any big moments in it. It doesn't like really peak at any moments. It's just like flat and kind of boring. It feels so. I don't know what this next part of the series, like after the Grand Bout, is going to be like. So maybe this does end up fitting what we're going to go into. But that's also kind of concerning if it is. The only interesting part of the opening is there's a specific shot showing Senku and Tsukasa, like, kind of acting as each other's opposites. And that's the only interesting part of the opening. And it's super brief. This one just doesn't have the same vibes. It doesn't have the same excitement. And it's just really disappointing to me. And I mean, I don't expect, like, every series to have, like, non-stop bangers of openings for each one. Like, not every series is going to have every opening they post be great. I understand that. Not every series can be on the level of something like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure or One Piece or whatnot, where it's like almost every opening is an absolute hit. Not every series is going to do that. In fact, most won't. But it's just such a downgrade after the first one. The first one was so actively great. Like, it was something that I was, like, starting to sing along to. At least in terms of the Ohio Sakai Good Morning World part. Parts that it happens twice in the opening, but it also feels weird, and this has been a thing with a lot of anime, to change the opening in the middle of an arc, but not just in the middle of an arc, in the middle of like a specific point in the series, a specific like thing happening. Like in this case, changing the opening in the middle of the Grand Bout is really fucking weird. Like, I assume it's based on the episode count here. I think there's like 26 episodes, so the first 13 episodes and the second 13 episodes have a different opening. And I think a lot of anime do that when it's like a double core series. They switch the opening at the halfway point. Now, that's not always the case, but a lot of anime, I believe, do that. And so I understand, but they couldn't have waited like 2 more episodes. I feel like that's when the grand bout's going to be over. It just feels like it feels wrong to change it at this point. It feels like out of place. It like doesn't work. Because it's like, again, we're in the middle of something happening. It's like you don't want the opening to change at that point. I don't know how else to describe this. And One Piece does this a lot. Like One Piece is really bad with this and has been pretty much its entire run, where it would change the opening in the middle of things, and sometimes those openings spoiled shit. Here's a big example. During the Alabasta arc of One Piece, it changes the opening like not quite at the end of the arc, but almost the end of the arc. And the new opening spoils that Robin joins the crew. The new opening that they switch to before the Alabasta arc is even over spoils that Nico Robin ends up joining the crew. And they absolutely just spoil that in the opening. And I've heard a lot of people complain about that. And it's valid because that ruins a big surprise. Robin suddenly appearing on the Going Merry and saying she wants to join the crew is this big shocker moment at the very, very end of Alabasta. Like when they're leaving the island and everything. It's this big moment, this big shock. So spoiling it with an opening that I don't know, like starts like 10 episodes before the end of the arc, something like that, is really, really bad. And again, One Piece has done this. Luckily, I think they've gotten better in the recent years. Like with the Wano openings, like obviously they have like, what is it, 4 openings for Wano, I think? Because of how fucking long that arc is. But they actually switched those openings out, I believe, at good points. Like, the first opening for Wano ends at the end of Act 1 of the arc. And the second opening, I believe, ends at the end of Act 2. I think. No, actually, I think it goes on a little further than that. I think it might end once they get to the actual raid, which is part of Act 3. Yeah, because I believe the second opening also shows the Odin, Roger, Whitebeard flashbacks in it. But then you have the raid on Onigashima, which brings in the third opening, and then the fourth opening is... It starts a little before the end, the post-Wano stuff. But that's basically what the final opening of Wano is. It's the post-Wano. And it's, again, it's not perfectly aligned. But still, for the most part, it's better than it used to be. But again, just changing the opening, going back to Dr. Stone, in the middle of this tournament is a really fucking weird move. Just because they want... Again, I assume that it's just because they wanted to have it be like halfway into the season. The first 13 episodes, the second 13 episodes. Perfect split. But it kind of hurts the immersion a little bit when you do that. They should have waited 2 more episodes. Because it's very clear at this point that the Grand Bout is ending next episode. They're going to close it out. They're going to finish it next episode. And so the episode after that, episode 16, that would probably be the perfect point. It's not going to be perfectly split down the middle, but honestly, who cares? It doesn't need to be. I don't think people are going to complain if you waited 2 more episodes. Um, but like I said, either way, I didn't really like the new opening anyway, so um, but tell me in the comments below what you thought of this episode, what you thought of the new opening, all of what I talked about in these afterthoughts here. Let me know your thoughts. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.